There we go. Whoop, didn't mean to do that. Let's see. So when you download your project files, it'll be in the movie. They're giving you a variety of JPEGs and vector files to work with. Remember .eps? What is that? JPEG or a raster or a vector? Vector. It's in vector form, so I can open that up in Illustrator. There's .ai, Adobe Illustrator, so that's definitely an Illustrator file. Here's a common problem that we have when you download your documents that maybe you've run into already. .ai, that's obviously an Adobe Illustrator file. So if I was to double click on it, boom, it automatically opens up in Adobe Illustrator. I already had mine open, so it opened nice and quick. Now, if I wanted to, I want to open up, say, this ratings EPS. So that's a vector file. If I was to double click on it now, what did it open up in? Preview. You can see that at the very top up here. Preview is not what I want. Preview is kind of the Macintosh default image viewer. It can open up PDFs, it can open up EPS. You can see it even converted this to a PDF in order to open it, which is not really what I wanted. What I want to do is every time I click on an EPS, I'd like for that to open up in Illustrator. Here's how to do this, and you may want to take a note on this. You can select a file just by clicking on it once. Then I'm going to hold down my Control key and click on it again. And this will give me my little pop-out menu. And you can see I've got an option to open with. Notice that Preview is the default program. So every time I click on it, by default, that's where I want it to go. I can, from here, choose Adobe Illustrator, and then it'll definitely open up in Illustrator from here. In this case, you can't see it because it's white on a white background, but that's what we opened up. What I would like to do is to tell the computer, no matter what, every time I have an EPS, I want to open that EPS in Illustrator or in a specific software. Let's not save that. Here's how to permanently change your computer to set the default to be Adobe Illustrator. I held down Control and I got my pop out. Choose Get Info. And this will bring up your little information screen. From here, I can see the name of it, I can see the file size of it, and at the very bottom, Open With, this is where I can choose where to open it. By default, it's Preview. I can select Illustrator, and then when I choose Change All, it's going to choose this application for all documents that are EPSs. Pretty cool. So if I do Change All, it may take it just a second, or it may say, are you sure? We'll hit Continue. And now, if I close it out, any EPS that I have, let's try Tantamount. I open up, automatically goes to Illustrator as the default. Make sense? You'll run into this, especially if you've got your own computer, but now I've reset that as an EPS file. Okay, let's close this out as well. Don't save. What your book is going to ask you to do is to open up several files from this movie folder using another program called Adobe Bridge. You can find Bridge down at the bottom. It's the one that's in bright gold. Click on it. Fair warning, I hate Bridge. I've never used Bridge so often. The way I work in Photoshop and even Illustrator is I know exactly where my files are and I open them up from the file folder. Bridge is kind of that tool that helps you control where your files are, especially if you're a photographer and you've got tons of photographs. It's a great tool to have if you're doing lots of files. But if you're like me and you only do an occasional file or you're only using a few images, it's too much. It's more than I actually need. But since they're covering it in the book, I'm going to cover it for you as well. Opened up Bridge. Over on the far right-hand side, you can see your more commonly used ones. I know my stuff is on the desktop, and there's my movie folder. And here's, of course, the files that are inside of it. And if I double-click on any one of these, by default, since it's it'll open up into Photoshop since it's set to do that. Another thing to open up Photoshop or to open up images is to go to File, and there's also what's called a mini bridge. And mini bridge kind of acts as a mini program inside of Photoshop that allows you to open up. You do need to connect to it, and you can get the same images down here as well. So if you don't have Bridge open, you can use mini bridge and quickly find it as well. Go away because I never use you. Okay, we're in Photoshop. A lot of this looks very, very similar. Obviously, off to the left-hand side, you've got your toolbox. You can move that around and readjust it. All of the tools that you're going to use are inside of your toolbox. Also, like in Illustrator, if you click and hold over a tool, you can see there's several similar tools that are hiding underneath those. So whenever I say to look under a tool, that's usually what I mean to be able to find those that we're working with. The more important tools to work with are going to be your selection tools, in this case the marquees or the lassos, we'll get into that later, and also your move tool, which is the black arrow in Photoshop. When you do select a tool, pay attention to the tool options at the very top, because you'll be able to customize your tool and to change things up from here. You also have all of your drop-down menus that you can choose from. And usually on the far right-hand side, these are all of your palettes. And just like the palettes in Illustrator, some are used more often. You can click and drag them out, or you can click these and collapse them all down to either their name or their icon by themselves. We'll leave that one open. And of course, when you open an image, you've got your work area that you're working in Photoshop. Here's another kind of cool thing. We'll use my selection tool so I'll select something. When I open an image, of course, I can move it around freely right now. If you open up Photoshop, yours may look something like this. I'm going to go to View and go to Window and turn on my application frame. Now, with this turned on, notice that first of all, I can't see anything in the background, and also a lot of my things are docked within this one large window. I can even drag this and dock it inside of there. Let's see, it's not playing nice with me. Oh well. But if I have my application frame turned on, I can move Photoshop around, rescale it, and have everything kind of staying within this one window, right? If I turn my application frame off, by going back to Window, choose that, then I get the free-floating palettes that allows me to see my desktop background and work within there. So that's kind of the first thing. Depending on who's been working on your computer before, it may look a little bit different from there. Another thing, if I click at the very bottom right-hand corner, I can resize the area that I'm working on. One thing that's different from Illustrator, when you work in Photoshop, remember Illustrator, you can kind of work off the edge and then drag things onto the area that you want to work on. Not true in Photoshop. The gray area that's on the outside is not printable and cannot be seen on your screen. If I was to grab my paintbrush tool, and let's see, I'll make it really big, and start painting on here, you can see it working in there, but if I go off the edge, you can't see anything that's off to that side. So whatever you're working on, this is the area that you want to work within. One thing that I like to do is, if I'm especially working on one area, if you hit your F key a couple of times, the first time will take you into this preview mode. The second time will turn off all of your tabs and you can see just the document that you're working on. This is really, really good if you're showing your work to somebody and you don't want to have the clutter of having all your tabs and palettes opened up. Hitting the F key will cycle through that. And if I hit it again, I'll go back to my normal preview mode. All cool? Check out my history palette that I had open. The history palette is one of the more important ones that you'll want to have access to. When you open it up, it's going to record every action that you did. You can see every time I use the brush tool, it adds on to what I'm doing. If I wanted to undo something, how do we undo it in Illustrator? What was the
Command Z.
Command Z. Or you can go up to Edit, and there's Undo. Command Z is usually the undo that we have. If I do Command Z, it will undo the last thing that I did. But if I keep hitting Command Z, it's just going to redo and undo what I've been doing. So in Photoshop, it's going to only remember the last thing that you did. If you want to keep backing up, you can open your history palette and then click on the last thing that you did from here. See how it's kind of taking them away or re-adding to it? Pretty cool. So no matter what tool that I use, if I make, say, a selection, there's my rectangle marquee, I can undo that and go back from there. In Illustrator, you had pretty much an infinite amount of undos. You can undo everything all the way back to the beginning, or at least when you open up your document. In Photoshop, you have about 40 undos that you can do. It only remembers the last 40 things that you did. So do kind of pay attention that you may want to save often or pay attention to what you're doing, because you won't be able to undo everything once you're working on it. Cool? By the way, if you do want to step backwards, if you do Option Command Z, this will step backwards in your time without having to actually click on it from there. All good? Okay, one last thing. If you open up multiple documents, so I'm in Adobe Bridge, let's open up the lightning one. I double clicked it, and let's also open up the skyline. Double click that one. By default, under my preferences, notice that I've got still one window that I'm working on, but I've got little tabs that have each of my pictures inside of them. So Photoshop's kind of trying to save space for you, and you'll have to know which one you're working on. If I wanted two of them open at the same time, you can click on it and drag it off. Now it's in two different windows, and so now I can see both of these and be able to manipulate and place things within it. What you're going to be doing is making a composite movie file. You're going to be taking each one of these images, placing them one on top of each other, and then manipulating them so that you can I don't know, do kind of this cool aftershock movie poster that you're creating. Whenever you move a file into another file in Illustrator, or excuse me, Photoshop. Been saying Illustrator all semester, so I'm going to have to get used to saying Photoshop. Pay attention to your layers palette. I'm going to drag, say, this lightning layer into this one. I've got my selection tool, drag it, place it into here. Check out my layers. The lightning photo is inside of the background layer, or it's on top of it, but it's inside of my document. With this layer selected, of course, I can move it around. If I was to choose my background layer and try to move, I get this warning. It's saying, hey, you could not move it because the background layer is locked. Check out the background layer. See the little lock? Usually by default, whatever first image that you open up, that's the background, and you're not able to move that one around. You're going to have to make it a separate layer or make another layer and then work on top of that to be able to move things around. Same way if I was to do skyline. Click it and drag it over. Skyline is now in the second layer, and I can move that around and place it wherever it's needed. I think in this project you're actually going to be selecting those layers and placing those. You can change up the order that these are in. Right now layer 2 is on top of layer 1, but if I wanted to see that lightning photo, you can select a layer, click it and drag it until it's highlighting in between layer 1 and the background. And when you let go, now I've rearranged that particular layer. Watch what happens, however, if I try to click on the lightning layer. Why is it moving this one? Bingo. Pay attention to what layer you have selected. I've still got the city layer selected, so that's the one that's moving around. I've got to have layer 1, the lightning layer, selected to change that up. As kind of a personal tip, I know the book will probably go into it, I've got my selection tool. If I turn on auto select here at the top, this will automatically jump between the layers no matter which one I selected. So if I choose layer 2, notice it jumps to layer 2 and I can move that around. Background layer, well, of course I can't do anything with it, so it's just adding as a selection from there. All cool? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to you so you all have time to work on this. This is just kind of the basics of the Photoshop environment. Next class period, I'll get into making selections and what we're going to be doing with those selections.